Number 10. We look at the International Space Station as a triumph of human engineering. We are wrong. It is a sterile, fragile cage, orbiting a relentless nuclear reactor. In May 2013, the illusion of safety fractured. Astronauts watched in horror as a cloud of frozen ammonia snowflakes drifted into the abyssal dark. This wasn't weather. It was a catastrophic thermal system failure. Without that toxic coolant, the sun-facing hull of the station would rapidly heat to 250 degrees Fahrenheit. It would literally bake the crew alive inside their aluminum tin. The void doesn't care about our multi-billion-dollar technology or our courage. It waits in absolute, deafening silence for a single, microscopic mechanical glitch. In the void, your next breath is a software permission, and permissions can be revoked. Before we continue the countdown, we must correct a fundamental human delusion. You believe you are safe. You look up at the bright blue sky and think of it as a permanent protective shield. It is not. The physical laws and conditions we consider absolute are nothing more than temporary, local weather patterns in an otherwise merciless universe. Humanity is not the pinnacle of cosmic design. We are a biological glitch. We are a momentary fluctuation of carbon and water, demanding meaning from a system governed entirely by the cold laws of entropy. We evolved to survive under exactly 1 atmosphere of pressure, roughly 14.7 pounds per square inch. In the massive scale of the cosmos, this specific pressure requirement is a terrifying anomaly. The universe defaults to only 2 states: the crushing, catastrophic gravity of collapsing stars, or the absolute zero-pressure vacuum of the abyss. Our atmosphere is a fragile chemical accident. To understand how exposed you truly are, consider the physical scale of our world. If the Earth were shrunk down to the size of a standard, polished bowling ball, the life-sustaining atmosphere that protects every living thing, every city, and every piece of human history is merely the thin, microscopic layer of mist left on its surface after a single, fading exhale. That is our grand shield, a temporary membrane separating our delicate biology from an indifferent, radioactive graveyard. We mistake this brief window of stability for a permanent home, but the cosmos is utterly sterile, and it does not care about our survival. A single, catastrophic sneeze from our sun, a severe coronal mass ejection, could strip away this mist, exposing the surface. In an instant, the vacuum would flood in. Without that 14.7 pounds of atmospheric pressure, the boiling point of your bodily fluids immediately drops below your core body temperature. Ebulism takes over. Your saliva, your tears, and the blood in your lungs would vaporize in milliseconds. The bright blue sky is nothing more than scattered light, hiding the infinite black void that is always there, waiting just a few miles above your head. We are not sitting safely inside a planetary fortress. We are completely exposed, clinging to a rock, drifting blindly through a cosmic shooting gallery. And the universe possesses multiple, terrifyingly efficient reset buttons. Number 9. In 2003, Chinese astronaut Yang Liwei sat alone in his capsule. Beyond his thin metal hull lay the abyssal dark of orbit. Then, the absolute silence was broken. He heard a distinct knocking. It sounded exactly like a wooden hammer striking an iron bucket. From a standpoint of physics, this is an incoherent event. Space is a vacuum. Sound cannot propagate without a medium. Any noise must logically originate from within the craft, perhaps the thermal expansion of metal shifting between extreme temperatures, but to the isolated human mind, this deeply unsettling sound exposes a primal flaw in our programming. You are trapped in a sterile container, surrounded by infinite nothingness, and your brain tells you something is trying to get in. Yet, the true horror isn't lurking outside the ship. It is unfolding inside your own skull. Number 8. When humans leave Earth's gravity, our biology does not elegantly adapt. It catastrophically fails. NASA clinically refers to this as space adaptation syndrome. Veterans measure its severity using the Garn scale, a metric of total paralyzing vestibular collapse. It is a state of existence where the concepts of up and down are permanently deleted from your consciousness. Consider the cold mathematics of this biological failure. On Earth, it takes your brain approximately 13 milliseconds to process and recognize a visual image. This lightning-fast calculation relies entirely on your inner ear fluid grounding that data to gravity. In the void, that fluid floats aimlessly. The telemetry sent to your brain becomes violently contradictory. As a result, your neural processing begins to lag. Reality itself desynchronizes. Your brain, desperate to map an environment it was never evolved to survive, essentially short circuits. Astronauts report horrifying visual hallucinations, crewmates' faces stretching into grotesque alien proportions. Straight lines bending and warping before their eyes, they endure a perpetual, inescapable sensation of falling endlessly into an abyss. You are a biological glitch trying to exist in a domain of pure physics. Your hardware is fundamentally earthbound. You are attempting to process the infinite cosmos using an operating system built strictly for the dirt. Number 7. We send humans into the void and call them explorers. We should call them biological test subjects for accelerated decay. In 2016, NASA astronaut Scott Kelly returned to Earth after 340 days aboard the International Space Station. According to the comprehensive twin study published in the Science Journal, the medical community wasn't just surprised by his physical state. They were horrified. His body hadn't just aged. His genetic source code had been fundamentally corrupted. The universe was actively rewriting his biology. At the end of our chromosomes are protective caps called telomeres. They dictate how our cells age, replicate, and survive. In the sterile, abyssal environment of orbit, the rate of telomere collapse and chaotic mutation is mathematically catastrophic. They degrade and alter at a rate up to 10 times higher than they do on the surface of the Earth. But the transformation didn't stop at temporary aging. A full 7% of Kelly's gene expression never returned to normal. The void permanently altered his human blueprint. To understand this biological annihilation, you must look at the fragility of your own DNA. Think of your genetic code as an ancient, massive library containing millions of delicate, carefully written books. On Earth, your cellular mechanics act as a diligent librarian, carefully maintaining these pages and fixing minor wear and tear. But in the lethal environment of space, you are exposing that library to a relentless, invisible hurricane. Cosmic radiation is systematically tearing out every 10th page of every book. It rips through the molecular bonds of your existence faster than your biological librarian can ever hope to glue them back together. The damage cascades through your physical form. Your cardiovascular system begins to stiffen. Your bone density disintegrates, mimicking severe elderly osteoporosis in a matter of months. Your muscles waste away despite rigorous daily exercise. And you must remember, this is merely in low Earth orbit. The ISS is still partially shielded by the remnants of our planet's magnetosphere. A journey to Mars would require an astronaut to spend at least 900 days in deep space, completely exposed. If 6 months in near-Earth orbit ages the human body by decades, the mathematical progression of a 3-year journey is an agonizing death sentence. On Earth, the average annual background radiation you experience is a safe 3.5 millisieverts. In deep space, you are swimming in a toxic ocean of high-energy particles. Reach a threshold of 5,000 millisieverts, and your body enters acute radiation sickness with a 50% chance of death within 30 days. But the chronic, daily exposure of deep space doesn't need a massive solar flare to kill you. It acts as a slow, methodical executioner. It simply unzips your DNA until your cells forget how to function, replicating with lethal errors. The stars may look inviting from the safety of our atmospheric mist, but to reach them, they demand a portion of your mortality in exchange. Space extracts its toll in the most fundamental currency we possess, time itself. The universe is not waiting to welcome us into a grand cosmic community. It is waiting to disassemble us, molecule by molecule. Number 6. In 1998, astronauts on the space shuttle observed unidentified, glinting particles moving outside their craft in ways that defied standard orbital mechanics. But the mystery deepens. The most terrifying threat in the void isn't the unexplainable debris lurking in the dark. It is the invisible, biological stowaways we brought inside the ship with us. Number 5. We like to imagine our spacecraft as highly advanced, sterile environments. This is a catastrophic misconception. When we launch humans into the abyss, we carry millions of terrestrial microbes with us. And the universe does not simply tolerate them, it weaponizes them. According to a comprehensive 2019 study published in the journal Nature, microgravity acts as an evolutionary hyperaccelerator for our most lethal pathogens. Scientists discovered that common Salmonella bacteria, a highly manageable infection on Earth, undergo a horrifying transformation in orbit. They quickly become apex predators of the microscopic world. On Earth, gravity forces single-celled organisms to expend energy constantly just to maintain their physical structure against the downward pull. Remove that physical stress, and the bacteria immediately redirect all of their biological resources into aggressive reproduction and defense mechanisms. In the weightless, indifferent environment of the International Space Station, Salmonella becomes 3 times deadlier than identical strains left on the ground. What is more disturbing is the micromath of their defense. Their genetic expression alters at a terrifying speed. The cell walls of these pathogens physically thicken, forging an impenetrable microscopic armor. Data confirms their resistance to standard antibiotics increases by a staggering 73%. We are not just taking harmless passengers into the dark. Space is force reformatting them into biological snipers. Now, project this reality onto a 3-year mission to Mars. You are locked in a sealed aluminum cylinder, tens of millions of miles from the nearest medical facility. Your own immune system is already crumbling, suppressed by radiation and the sheer physical trauma of the void. Meanwhile, the bacteria inside your own cabin have just been upgraded by the cosmos into an unstoppable armored supervirus. Terrestrial medicines will fail. There is nowhere to run, and the air you rely on is recycled through the same infected vents hour after hour. Space doesn't need to crush you with a collapsing star or incinerate you with a gamma ray burst. It simply changes the rules of biology, stripping away human dominance and handing the keys of survival directly to the microbes. The universe is a merciless laboratory, and humanity is nothing more than the petri dish. Number 4. We believe we have mastered the physics of our own backyard. We plot the orbits of our multi-million-dollar satellites with assumed mathematical perfection. But in 2018, aerospace engineers realized our absolute calculations were entirely inadequate. Satellites were losing altitude at catastrophic rates. The European Space Agency's Ghost spacecraft was projected to comfortably maintain its orbit for years. Instead, it plummeted toward Earth months ahead of schedule, dragged down by an invisible, unpredicted force. This wasn't an isolated glitch. Spacecraft across different altitudes experienced orbital decay up to 3% faster than our best models allowed. The equations that governed our skies for decades suddenly stopped working. It was as if the fundamental physical rules of near-Earth space had been silently rewritten without our permission. Whether it is undetected atmospheric expansion or the gravitational pull of unseen dark matter, the implication is horrifying. We cannot even secure the shallow waters of our own planetary orbit. The safety of the technological grid sitting just a few hundred miles above your head is a metastable illusion. Number 3. If we are blind in our own orbit, consider the nightmare waiting at the edge of the map. In 2012, NASA's Voyager 1 spacecraft finally reached the heliopause. This is the absolute boundary of our solar system. It is the dividing line where the protective magnetic bubble created by our sun ends and true abyssal interstellar space begins. Astrophysicists expected a quiet, sterile transition into the deep void. Instead, Voyager's telemetry detected an incomprehensible anomaly. As it crossed the threshold, it recorded a persistent hum. It was a bizarre, oscillating wave structure in the plasma of deep space that defied all existing models. The data revealed a staggering 40-fold increase in electron density just outside our solar system's shield. Let that math sink in. The interstellar medium isn't a peaceful, empty vacuum. It is a highly compressed, violent storm of radiation, multiplying its density by a factor of 40 the second you step outside our sun's protective shadow. When Voyager 2 crossed the same boundary in 2018, it confirmed the horrifying truth. The heliosphere isn't just a physical line on a star chart. It is a heavily bombarded wall, and the persistent hum Voyager recorded is the literal sound of the abyss violently pressing against our fragile bubble. Our solar system is not peacefully drifting through a quiet galaxy. We are huddled inside a thin magnetic membrane, creeping through a highly pressurized radioactive ocean. And the data suggests our shielding is entirely misunderstood. Number 2. During the Apollo missions, astronauts tried to rest in the pitch-black void of their cabins. They closed their eyes, and in the absolute darkness, they saw brilliant, flashing streaks of white light. NASA initially dismissed this as deep space fatigue or psychological stress. They were wrong. The astronauts were not hallucinating. They were literally seeing radiation. They were witnessing high-energy cosmic rays known as HZE particles physically passing through the spacecraft's thick aluminum hull, penetrating their skulls and striking their optic nerves. To understand the catastrophic nature of this event, we must look at the merciless mathematics of relativity. These are not standard solar particles. They are heavy atomic nuclei, accelerated by the violent collapse of distant stars to 99% the speed of light. According to the laws of mass-energy equivalence, E equals mc squared, an object moving at relativistic speeds carries an unfathomable amount of kinetic energy. A single subatomic iron particle traveling at 99% the speed of light impacts a human cell with the kinetic energy of a baseball thrown at 60 miles per hour. Now, imagine millions of these subatomic wrecking balls passing through your body every single hour. It is a microscopic lobotomy performed by a billion invisible needles. They do not just bump into your cells. They violently UN-zip your DNA strands, and you cannot feel it happening. Human nerve impulses travel at a maximum speed of roughly 270 miles per hour. These particles are tearing through your biology at 186,000 miles per second. The physical structure of your brain tissue is dissolved infinitely faster than the pain signal can even reach your cortex. You are being executed on a cellular level before you even know you are being hit. There is no physical armor against this threat. We try to build spacecraft with heavily engineered shielding, but the indifferent physics of the universe actively turns our defenses into weapons. When a high-energy cosmic ray strikes a solid metal hull, it shatters the atoms of the shield itself. This creates a secondary shower of lethal, radioactive shrapnel inside the cabin, effectively multiplying your exposure. Outside the Earth's magnetic field, the void bathes you in hundreds of millisieverts of radiation. Your cardiovascular system rapidly degrades, your eyes cloud with heavy cataracts, and your neural pathways experience accelerated, irreversible decay. We cannot conquer deep space because our biology is fundamentally incompatible with the medium we must travel through. The universe is not an ocean waiting to be explored. It is a sterile, radioactive firing squad. Before we reach the final, most terrifying truth, we must confront the ultimate deadlock, the paradox of the sterile grave. For decades, we have stared into the abyssal dark, searching for Earth-like exoplanets. We dream of interstellar colonization, of escaping our dying sun, but this dream is a mathematical delusion. Our biology makes us fundamentally incompatible with the medium we must travel through to survive. We are not explorers. We are biologically quarantined. Consider the sheer, devastating scale of our isolation. The nearest star system, Proxima Centauri, is roughly 25 trillion miles away. Even if we boarded the fastest spacecraft ever built by human hands, traveling at over 400,000 miles per hour, it would take nearly 7,000 years to reach it. That is not a journey. That is a multi-generational tomb. To understand this quarantine, imagine the United States is the entire observable universe. In this scale, our entire solar system, the sun, the earth, and everything we have ever known is a single microscopic grain of sand sitting on a sidewalk in New York City. The nearest star is another grain of sand located somewhere in Chicago. And the space between them is not empty. It is a merciless, radioactive microwave. Over thousands of years in the void, the humans aboard an interstellar generation ship would not remain human. Without the exact 14.7 pounds per square inch of atmospheric pressure and the 1G gravitational pull of Earth, their skeletal structures would crumble into dust. Their telomeres would completely collapse under the relentless bombardment of cosmic rays. The bacteria in their own microbiomes would mutate into aggressive, unrecognizable pathogens, consuming them from the inside out. By the time that metal hull finally reached a new sun, the biological entities inside would be severely deformed, unrecognizable anomalies. This is the true clinical reality of the Great Filter. It is not an alien invasion, and it is not a sudden, catastrophic explosion. It is the deafening silence of physical distance and the lethal chemistry of the vacuum. The universe has locked us inside a highly pressurized, radioactive cell, and it has thrown away the key. We are trapped in a paradox of our own intelligence. We possess the technological minds required to look through telescopes and map the stars, but we were given the fragile, earthbound hardware of a species that can never, ever touch them. We are forced to sit in our sterile grave, watching the cosmos slowly burn out, completely helpless to participate.